the ever-changing weather around the world, ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all, there is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sim racing fans of all ages, tonight's time to kick off the first round of the season number 15 of the Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans. Here from Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours. Magny-Cours, of course, being from France. This takes me back a little bit to high school here, Brady Baldwin, because I enjoyed my French lessons during high school, and I think I'll pull a few of those out here tonight.
Yeah, I don't think I did too much French at school, but I certainly remember this track from the French Formula 1 Grand Prix back in the day. A fantastic race circuit. Probably not a circuit I would think that supercars would match up on, but with a couple laps, hot laps I've done in the past few weeks, it's actually a pretty exciting circuit and should see some pretty wild racing here tonight, Scott, for the opening round of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. So this will give us the buy-in as to where the heck in Europe Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours is. Right over there on the central eastern border, right in alongside the Pyrenees, I believe it is. No, the Pyrenees down towards the south. It's an interesting circuit, this one. Lots of tight, tricky, and technical corners. Long corners, short corners, switchback, chicanes. Corners that double over on themselves. It's got it all here, Brady.
Certainly has a lot of variety. Go to turn number 1, and the long sweeping Estoril, turn number 3, then the famous hairpin Adelaide, turn number 5. Then pretty much through 5 through to 14, it's a really winding, tough piece of racetrack. Very easy to get it off track, very easy to get a slow down. Then you come to the back of the circuit, turn 15, and then the famous 16, 17 chicane. Like I mentioned, it's going to be very difficult in these big, heavy V8 touring cars, but I've seen a lot of these guys doing a lot of practice during the week, so I'm sure they're right up for it tonight.
Yeah, and track conditions are going to be important, I think, here as well. 20 degrees Celsius is currently the on-track temperature. Current layout has been this way since 2003, but the circuit originally opened all the way back in 1960. There's memories galore, and it's actually one of the more fun tracks to drive in iRacing. There's a little bit of curbs, so you might see some curb smashing here tonight for fans of the street circuits, and for those of us that are normal people among the rest of us, there's so many different intricate parts of the circuit. Difficulty of an overtake here, though, Brady, I rate it quite high, to be perfectly honest with you. It's not easy to get a job done here.
I totally agree there, Scott. I think you'll see a lot of opportunities at turn 5 at Adelaide, and probably into turn 15 as well. You might see something at turn 1, but it really narrows up between probably turn 6 to turn 13, 14. It's really narrow, and you'll be pretty ballsy to try and make a move in that section. You might probably punt someone wide if you try. So, like you said, I think qualifying is going to be a very key factor as we will look to the grid very shortly to see who has pole position.
Yeah, so we'll be throwing it across to the first qualifying attempt of the season. It was 3 laps. It's been run and done. The race itself, 35 laps in length. Just over 150 kilometers will be the journey here tonight. In terms of things, critical lap number 14, 1 pit stop we're assuming to get the way home, and it's going to be an interesting one from lights out to flag, and I think we are just moments away from the grid forming itself up, and we will be underway, ladies and gentlemen. But before we do that, this is going to be what your season number 15 calendar looks like tonight. Circuit de Magny-Cours, 150 kilometers. 150 kilometers is going to be half of the racing season. We'll then head off to Circuit Park Zandvoort. From there, back to Australia for the Phillip Island Grand Prix. Long Beach Street Circuit. That's going to be another one that'll test the drivers before we head to the Twin Ring Motegi East layout, one of the shorter layouts there. One of my favorite circuits right the world over, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Yes, look, I'm a little bit in love with what Scott McLaughlin's doing internationally in open wheelers, and well, this will be the road course layout from the GP circuit in Indianapolis. Sandown Motor Raceway as well on the calendar. Knock Hill Racing Circuit in the reverse layout, I believe. Watkins Glen International Cup full, we'll be using the boot, and then we will finish alongside a American round with a second American round at 150 kilometers of Virginia International Raceway. So a lot of tricky circuits there, and a lot of ones that sort of double back on themselves quite a little bit, Brady. So Magny-Cours is nearly the perfect opening round when you have a look at that calendar.
It really is. It's a bit of a combination, a bit of a feeler track for all these drivers. A lot of variety in there. Zandvoort, Long Beach Street Circuit, Indianapolis. That's a challenge in itself. Then I can't wait for Red A, because I think Knock Hill International Reverse will be absolutely off its head. And even VIR to end the season, it's a pretty cool way to end. And then the Cup layout at Watkins Glen for a long race. I reckon that's going to be slipstreaming galore there. And yeah, it's going to be some really good racing throughout the season.
Yeah, in terms of tyre wear, that Watkins Glen one's going to be quite a high tyre wear track, because a lot of long corners as a part of that one. So anyway, that's what it looks like. We'll be finishing the season up right at the midpoint of the year. 1st of June will be the final round. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we had the displeasure to find out that due to iRacing outages, the final round of the previous season, of season 14, was not run at all. They called it a washout. There was too much rain on the digital servers, shall we say, to host that race. But what that means is that we can tell you now that the final race of last season, without that one alongside Michael Taliancic, the one-handed bandit, puts not only one hand, but his second hand as that one come back into play later on in the season on that trophy. He took that one away. He'll be looking for a strong start to season number 15 as well.
Yes, certainly, Scott. And we're about to go lights out, so we'll try and quickly go through as much of the grid as we can. We only got about 30 seconds. We've been talking about the season ahead, and we will have John Latham pole position. Scott Gamble will share the front row with him. Matt Vandercray and Jeff Thomas will share row 2. Anthony Visma, Craig Friend will share row 3. So, typical Scott Gamble, he was very fast at the start of last season. Will he be able to get another good start to the season as we go through the grid once again? We've already gone through the top 6, but Scott, we're nearly about lights out.
Yeah, that's it. Visma, Craig Friend, Jason Spriggs, Duggan. We're just about getting ready to throw the lights out, ladies and gentlemen. Revs will rise here in a few moments. Dave Kirby, Damien Cairns. Moving further back, we're going to get into... Outside the top 10 will be Matt Scholes, Chris Miller, Scott McCune, Michael Schroeder, Stephen Banks, Chad Lewis, Travis Hunt, Peter Vandercrane, Michael Taliancic in 19th. And then in 20th, it's going to be Robert Crysdale to round out your 20. The first round of the season, the first round of turn number 1, and John Latham by a country mile leads us down into turn number 1. Somebody into the dirt on the outside. It was Anthony Visma who's looking to try and feed his way back in there, and Jeff Thomas has got away quite well for himself as well. They'll feed themselves down through Adelaide for the first time, and now the run down at turn number 4. Who's going to be late on the brakes? Who's sending it up the inside? Here they come, the little kink in the straight, underneath the bridge, Circuit Magny-Cours. Welcome to the V8 Veterans.
Oh, big mistake there at the hairpin. Looked like it was Mark Duggan, locked the rear brakes. He got away with it though, somehow. He only got just into the side there of Visma, so what a save from Mark Duggan. He really got out of that one pretty safely. Unfortunately, there's a few guys at the back who have been caught up. Scott McCune, one of those drivers.
Scott McCune, man, I tell you what, I'm never ever asking him to buy me a lottery ticket, because that man finds ways to make his way into mistakes, and unfortunately Michael Stewart will find his way all the way back down to the bottom of the pack as well. So a bunch of drivers are going to start trying to look to make their way back up through the field as this race progresses, and Duggan had an opportunity in the opening stanza of this one to really push forward just a little bit. And unfortunately, going backwards from him, we saw some pace from the 864 last season. We'll see what he can do. But Taliancic just grabbed 4 spots on the opening lap as well.
Yeah, it looks like Duggan just had to serve a slowdown penalty by the looks of it. He lost a number of positions after starting P number 8, that massive moment turn 5 at Adelaide. We'll see where he fares out. But Scott Gamble, very poor getaway by his standards from the pole position, off the front row. Sorry, John Latham streaked away off that start, but Matt van der Crane and Scott Gamble is big, massive inside lock there for the 5-4-3, trying to put pressure on the 180 of Matt van der Crane, but he won't get anything done. But it's 35 laps. It's quite a long race and fair bit of strategy to play. We've got about 8 to 9 lap fuel window to play with tonight, so there's going to be a lot of varying strategies here tonight, Scott.
Yeah, and a couple of cars that are still just making their way past the start-finish line at this point in time as well. 38th, 39th, 40th, so they'll have a long transit to do, but we'll keep our eyes back towards the front end of the piece. Scott Gamble's looking at the rear bumper of Matt van der Crane, who's defending for all his money. He's going to try and do all he can. Watch the way that they transition the cars through there, and it's critical, Brady. I reckon Gamble might have picked himself up a slowdown penalty there, because you can just about barely touch the curb on the left-hand side of that car.
Yeah, 100% right there. It's very easy to get an off-track or a slowdown penalty at this circuit. It doesn't take much, especially in these big, heavy cars. They're not very nimble. This is definitely an open-wheel type circuit, so we've seen in the past cars go to the open-wheel circuits, and like Circuit of the Americas we did end of last season, they're not particularly suited for these big cars, and with the off-tracks as well, makes it very, very difficult.
Speaking of off-tracks, Dan Hall found himself off-track just a few moments ago. He will regather himself back up and get back into it, but reasonably safe opening couple of laps with 40 cars. You're expecting at least some contact on lap number 1, particularly on the run down to the Adelaide hairpin, but at the moment, all John Latham. Does that seem to you like Gamble's hanging onto those tyres just a little bit, playing with that brake bias? He's sort of holding himself back, saving something in the tank. He's going to play a strategy race, and that's the Scott Gamble way.
Yeah, I certainly think he probably wouldn't mind sitting behind van der Crane as long as van der Crane doesn't veer too far away from John Latham. He's still within a second, so really not much, and I think Gamble will play the patient game here and let John Latham burn up his fuel and tyres and play the long game. Like we said, we've still got another 33 laps to go, so still a long way left in this one.
Yeah, so keeping our eyes up and down the field. For your big rises and fallers, I can tell you Christian Smart's up 7 spots. Scott McCune, after that incident in lap number 1, lost 17 spots. Other than that, it looks to be only a couple digits either direction. Peter van der Crane's another one who's lost 6 spots. Matty Parker's up 4. Rod Hollis up 4. So there's only a couple of drivers that make big gains or big losses in those opening couple of laps. And that says drivers are sort of holding themselves back a little bit. They're looking to get things underway. Or are they just saying that this is going to be a big, long race? 150 kilometres, shortest race of the season, but they're looking after their equipment early. Matt van der Crane is around from P number 2.
There was contact with Scott Gamble at turn number 14, so it'll be very interesting to see what race control do with that.
Well, I mean, it's a slam dunk. If it is contact and there is something at fault on Gamble's side, it's going to be a slam dunk penalty with where van der Crane's ended up. He's had to watch the whole field come past. He's gone from second to, I think, outside the top 30.
Yeah, not very good. We've got the Logitech G replay here, and it's hard to tell. I don't know if van der Crane squeezed him just a tiny bit, but I think as the passing car, the 543 of Gamble will be at fault, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's see what race control say.
Yeah, that's a difficult one to call. I don't. That angle doesn't tell the full story. There's another car out into the kitty litter, just exiting that one as well. It was one of the ERT drivers, probably Craig Friend, I think. Yeah, it might have been Craig Friend on the outside. I think was just dodging that one out. So lost a couple spots as a result of that one. But that was a little bit of a difficult, wild ride, and Gamble clearly felt he was being held up by van der Crane. Well, I tell you what, if that is a penalty, that puts John Latham, 3 seconds ahead? 3.5 seconds?
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a slam dunk road to victory, easy road to victory for John Latham if that is the case. And I wouldn't say that anything is possible, especially if we have safety cars, and we've seen the form of Jeff Thomas, Visma, Damien Cairns, we're all in behind. So still anything's possible, but John Latham certainly showing the pace early on in this race.
Brady, have you put that? We're 4 laps into a race. We're 4 laps into a new season, and you're out here already trying to put the mockers on John Latham. I do not want to be a part of that interview. You can handle him later on if we get to talk to him, if he doesn't end up in victory lane. I'll tell you what. Right, so Gamble will get the head down and he will try and at least settle and stabilise himself. Scott McCune down to 28th position at this point in time. He's passed a couple cars on his way back through the field here. Whoa! Who's that in the background? I think that's Matt Vanderkrane again. No, it wasn't. Vanderkrane's a long way further back. So it was, it was going to be Rick Vigor having a little bit of a moment to himself.
Big moment off the final corner there for the 014 of Vigor. Did get it saved, but unfortunately lost a few spots. But yeah, unfortunately, Matt Vanderkrane, he's right down the field. He's just behind his teammate in P37. So Vanderkrane, unfortunately, is now 35 seconds off the lead after all that. So it's going to be a long, hard race for the 180 machine.
Yeah, and you would have said from Vanderkrane, he would have just been like, you know what, take it back. I just want to sit here. I want to fight a little bit. But if you've got ultimately the better pace, I will accept a podium. That's probably my target here for tonight's racing. So it's interesting to see that that one did happen. I can tell you Rod Hollis has got a slow down penalty at the moment. There's a whole bunch of brake locking ups going into the hairpin at that point in time. So Hollis will clear his slowdown penalty. Now he's in trouble. Here they go. That was Scott McCune just managing to get by him just ahead of him in the 77 car. So the 57 will settle himself down. It was Michael Quain actually. So it was a different driver entirely. So Quain just got pushed out to the outside there of the turn number 9 hairpin. And long way around the outside route there. But it's very easy to over-under in what is effectively one corner.
Yeah, you certainly... Vinella got a massive battle pack there for P26, but what's impressing me so far is the Type P and eSports cars sported by Blacktown Mazda. They're currently P4 to 6 at the moment. Massive moment. Christian Smart, Synergy Sim Racing Machine, was really wide there on the front straight, trying to pick up. It looks like it was contact with the 016 machine of... Yeah, the 016 machine, and Christian Smart was Chad Figure, so we'll try and pick up a replay if we can of that little altercation come off the final chicane.
Would you say that the Vigors apply the right pedal with a little bit too much vigour? I'll leave that one for the fans at home to decide.
Quite possibly, Scott, quite possibly.
Well, settle themselves back down in. That's the run down to the Adelaide hairpin yet again as drivers bobbling everywhere all around. Rod Hollis comes away with a couple of spots there. Now he'll lead the pack, and probably on this next lap by Mr. Dan Yeaman behind the scenes and the cameras if you can. I would like to take a ride through the final chicane because it's such a critical section of the track to get right. We've already seen Christian Smart off the road there. We've seen multiple cars backwards already. It is a nightmare for these drivers, Brady.
It certainly is. It's a very tight, confined racetrack and very easy to make mistakes. So
who's at the back of this battle pack? We'll follow right with them through. Is Christian Smart? Watch Christian Smart's view because he's going to follow 6 cars ahead of him through that chicane. He can't see a thing. This is something that's going to be difficult to manage from Christian Smart's view. So it'll be a right-hander down here at the bottom end of the hill, and he'll swing quite wide, trying to miss some of the sausage curving. He can use all that curving on the left-hand side. Bounce, and you can just hear him managing the throttle as he gets back to it. He's going to try and pick up his turn-in mark. He's just going to turn the wheel nice and smoothly and not overexert those rear tyres, Brady. Lots of driver skills and unique skills from the drivers. And then have a look at what turn 1 and turn 2 offer you.
It's a very unique, very difficult racetrack, especially in these touring cars. We've touched on it many times. This is an open-wheel track, so this track ain't built for these race cars, so the drivers are all in on it tonight. They've got to be on top of their game and try and minimise their mistakes.
And here comes another boost. So Christian Smart's going to try and get down the inside of the 57 here. We'll see if he can come away with the move on Michael Quain. Quain's going to get a good drive off of the Adelaide hairpin around the outside. They'll still go toe-to-toe. Going to turn number 7 and 8, the flip-flop. Will he surrender? Will he yield? Quain eventually yields and Christian comes away with the spot.
Very nice move there into Adelaide for Christian Smart. Got the move done. That will put him back up to P27 on the recovery drive after that little altercation off the final corner there with Chad Vigor, which was caught into race control. So we'll have to see if anything gets done about that.
Haven't heard anything thus far as a response from race control, so I think they're investigating potentially some of the lapse incidents, of which there were a couple. But now, Mike Wayne got his hands full with Stephen Gretchen behind. No, I believe that's Stephen Gretchen, Stewie Hall as they run down to the third last corner. And the 10 machine of Gretsch will get the job done there on Stewie Hall, spawning a fair bit of damage on the front right corner of that car too. Maybe he was the car that gave Christian Smart a good old whack coming out of the final chicane.
It's also cool to see a few new faces in this field that we didn't get to see last season. It's got a lot of returning faces here into Split 1, broadcasted here live on SimSpeed TV, but a few new names in the field and a few guys that will have to learn their names and learn how they drive. There's a massive moment up ahead, and that is Rod Hollis, the 177, a massive moment. He's missing the bonnet, so big impact there for the Fishy Motorsport 177.
Yeah, that's a huge impact for Rod Hollis' machine. That is going to need a replay because he's going from the front end of this pack to right at the back end of this pack, and tell you what, I think he's done it on his own.
He could be right there. Scott Logitech G replay on cue, and yeah, it looks like he just dropped the left rear into the sand on the exit of Estoril, turn number 3. Yep, left rear in the sand, bang. Very hard to save that, and massive impact. Would not be surprised if he has to get more damage. And just up ahead, another incident I've just picked up on my camera, Scott, and it was actually Paul Burns had a big off through turn number 9 and 10, so I'll try and pick up a replay of that once everything settles down. And a lot of chatter between drivers and race control, so race control certainly keeping busy on night 1 of the season.
I think it was the car that was behind Paul, actually. It was Chad Vigor. Chad Vigor had a huge moment. He's actually in the fence on the right-hand side, up alongside Christian Smart, and that car has been completely and utterly torn up. Chaos continues, so this will be the next time by. So we've got a whole lap before we'll actually. Oh no, he's on the way into pit lane. I can tell you that left rear corner is absolutely demolished on his car.
Certainly very early for these guys are coming in for a pit stop. They might be able to make it home with a massive fuel save, but I assume these guys are trying to repair their cars as quite a lot of them have massive damage. Hollis, Burns, and Chad Vigor. So these guys might be able to make it home. They will probably need a safety car to be a bit more safe. But you just touched on Scotty Gamble, right on the back of John Latham. But he does have that investigation over his head. So will he push really hard? Scott Gamble will try and force the issue, but he might have a penalty coming his way shortly.
I don't know. See, normally I would think I'm going to hear about it. We would have heard about it by now. So I don't necessarily think Scott Gamble. I think he's clear. I think he's in the good. I don't think there's much to worry about. Look at the cars bounce over that chicane. There is just no good line through there for a V8 supercar. Imagine being in a little Formula 4, something quite close to the ground. That would. Well, we heard Lewis Hamilton in Formula 1 last season complaining about his back. Yeah, look, I think he complained about everything. It's one of those events.
Yeah, it's certainly very aggressive and very brutal, that last chicane in these cars, and can really set up your lap if you get a good run down that front straight and run into turn 1, into 2 and 3, can really make or break your lap, that chicane. And Scott Gamble right on the back of John Latham, and Chad Lewis has been given a penalty. We probably didn't pick up that incident, I don't think, but the 727 does have a drive-through penalty.
So, let's see if we can grab and what's going on there. Indeed, the Logitech G replay tends to tell the story. Oh, this is the incident with Christian Smart. Yeah, this is the one that I was talking about, so...
Yeah, okay. So Paul Burns there was just an innocent bystander, really.
Yep, that's just unfortunate. So that is what happened to Paul Burns, and it was Chad Vigor who was escorting the inside barriers and watched Christian Smart. It's to be okay from Paul Burns' perspective. He ended up coming down pit lane regardless, just to get that car fixed up. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there have now been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars that have already been to pit lane. All of them involved in incidents in the first 11 laps of the season. But right now, we're going to have to zero back in, I think, on the battle back up for first position at the moment, because I think Gamble is going to start hammering out a little bit of a message on the rear bumper of John Latham, unless he's gone into absolute fuel conservation mode. We've seen it from him before, and here they come. The run down to the Adelaide hairpin, first on the traffic, up ahead of them as well. Very, very deep. You can just see the advantage right there under braking for Scott Gamble. So that's where he's making all the time. So looking after the tyres early on may have helped him here, Brady.
Yeah, I certainly think so, Scott. He's just sitting behind, doesn't look in too much of a rush to try and get the move done. I think he might be happy just to sit back just for now. I did actually pick up that Chad Lewis incident that he got the black flag for was on lap 6 of the hairpin and got in a little bit hot and got into the back of one of the Nova Sim Sports cars, turned them around and affected quite a few other guys. So that was the reason for the penalty for the 727, just got a little bit hot at the hairpin on lap 6.
It stands to reason that I know Matt Van der Crane called his incident in just about straight away as Scott Gamble goes down the inside. This is where he was looking to try and pick himself off Matt Van der Crane. And where it went wrong for Van der Crane, who turned in, says race control. And now he's going to look to continue to harass the bumper. He's got the pace. The tyre wear's aiding him at this point in time. At what stage do you go for the undercut? Well, the strategy meter says lap 14 is about the expected pit lane opening window, but that is a humongous drive to get home. 21 laps, it's a stint and a half extra on those tyres that you have to do.
We will see guys run to about 22, 23 at best laps on the opening fuel tank capacity of 80 litres. So we'll start to see guys about lap number 14 until about lap 22, 23 as Gamble has a big lunge down the inside. Massive
That's a huge lunge
into Adelaide. He punts Latham wide, gets caught in behind Michael Stewart. Another controversial move, but he looks like slowed down and redress the position there, Scott Gamble. So smart driving there from Gamble. He did not want another penalty potentially hanging over his head.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to say, Chad Lewis's penalty, lap 6, well, the incident between Gamble and Van der Crane happened on lap 2, lap 3, so I would assume that race control are done with that one. They're happy and they've moved on at this point in time. So I'm taking that question mark away from Scott Gamble at this point in time. He showed he's got the pace, wanted to use the lap traffic as a pick. Here's where he's been really, really strong, a little bit too far back this time. Down into turn number 14 of Chateau d'Eau. And we'll have the ability to go back in time and have a look at what happened to Chad Lewis at the Adelaide hairpin on lap number 6. Didn't see it triggered the first black flag penalty of the season.
Yeah, we'll see the 727, the RT machine of Chad Lewis, just coming a little bit hot, like a outside brake into the hairpin, into the 864 there of Duggan and a few other cars. Tally Anchich was one of the guys also got caught by another ERT car of Dan Hall. So unfortunately Chad Lewis, pretty fair penalty I think there, Scott.
I don't know. I was wondering he was the car on the inside. He's definitely made a mistake in braking. That much I'll definitely say. So having a crack, looking for an opening. Speaking of looking for an opening, Scott Gamble is going to try this once more. This time there won't be a car on the outside. He's going to go deep into the hairpin, pulls it up a lot shorter, trying to get the drive on the outside as John Latham, and now they'll go head-to-head on the run out of turn 5, all the way down to the flip-flop of 7 and 8. John Latham gets himself back ahead of Scott Gamble, who'll hang on for one more lap at this point in time, but here comes Jeff Thomas, who's starting to show a turn of speed in the background.
You took the words out of my mouth, Scott. I was just about to say, all this battling between Latham and Gamble, this is bringing Jeff Thomas in the 85 right into this battle. The Type N eSports cars, they're not far off either. They're a little bit off Jeff Thomas at the moment, but they're right in the hunt as well. But keen to watch the 85 of Thomas. He's lurking right there. He can save a little bit of fuel, save his tyres a little bit behind these guys. He might be able to go a little bit longer, get maybe an overcut and use some fresher tyres at the end of the race, or he might even go an undercut if he gets close enough and starts to get held up just a little bit.
I was just about to say, how long do you wait? Have a look at the lap time difference, though. That's so important. Last lap, 41.5 for Jeff Thomas, a 40.175. Now, this time through, it'll be a 40.0 and a 39.7, so 2 and a bit tenths. Not quite 3 tenths on the book there for Jeff Thomas that lap, so he is coming, and Gamble is still lurking right there, right underneath the rear wing of John Latham, and have a look at the rear end of these cars start to wiggle, and then you've got to look a little bit further backwards as well, because those other cars, the Taipan cars, they're coming down in the background as well. Gamble gets the tow once more to the inside of the Adelaide hairpin. He's going to try and pull the car up short. Again, Latham turns it in from the outside, uses all of the available road to him, gets the drive off and defends once more from the 24.
Fantastic driving from John Latham. He's keeping Gamble at bay for now. It's a really intense battle for race 1, round 1 of the season. These guys are not holding back whatsoever. They're going toe to toe the first race of the season to assert dominance in this series.
And talk to us a little bit about the racecraft there, Brady, because that's important. Latham can block that inside line. He absolutely could come across and shut that line down. This might be the answer from Scott Gamble. Covers it just a little bit there from John Latham. But at the Adelaide hairpin, he absolutely could cover the inside, but that opens you up. It makes you vulnerable in other ways.
It certainly does, and I think if you try and defend too much, you become a little bit sloppy and complacent in other areas. So it's just best to race as you normally do, and if someone passes you, just try and race it back as hard as you can. Just like John Latham did, he stuck it out around the outside and was able to hold on to the position through the turn 7 and 8 chicane. So credit to John Latham there, and Scott Gamble's given it his all at the moment, and Jeff Thomas slowly dropped off a little bit that last lap.
Yeah, but they're still here. They're still in the hunt. This time, Gamble's got a little bit of a run. He's nearly to the inside there already, so they're alongside. Scott Gamble's there. Scott Gamble's done. Race leader has changed. It's the 5-4-3.
Little bit of a bump and run there from the 5-4-3 of Gamble. It was a little bit cheeky on the rear bumper coming out of turn number 3, but it's touring car racing. It's what you got to do. It looks like he definitely has a big pace advantage, so I think we will see Latham pit probably as soon as possible. I think he's just drop off the tyres a little bit. I think if he can try and get an undercut, he might be able to just jump Scott Gamble in the pit sequence and might be able to just hang on for a potential race win once again. So look for the 24 to come in very shortly.
I'm actually sitting here watching the 85 and going, you know what? Jeff Thomas on the screen. Is he having a little bit of a word to maybe the crew chief, some strategy options? Jeff Thomas comes in on this lap and he gets clear air out on the track. I think he's good. I think he's got both of them.
Very high possibility because he's been really pacey the last few laps. Jeff Thomas is closed the gap right in. He's pulled away from Visma in P number 4. He's looking very impressive. Race 1 of the season, Jeff Thomas. He came to life the end of last season with some really good results. Struggled at the start of the season, but as you called it, he's in.
Oh, you've got to be brave. You've got to be brave. You've got to have an absolute crack. You've got to be careful with the pit lane entry. That speed cone comes up incredibly quickly on the entry here at Circuit to Magny-Cours. Let's talk about our pit lane strategies up and down the field at this point in time. And I can tell you that the 605 machine so far appears to be the front-running car that has pit. That's Matt Skulls. He got in on lap 15. He's good to go now to the end. Just in behind him, Brennan Nitschke's just come into the pit lane as well. So Skulls is, I think, our race leader in terms of who has pit. And we'll keep an eye on what's going on there for the Riot Sim Racing driver and how well this will play out. Keep your eyes on that 85 as well. So Skulls back in 28th at this point in time. We'll see how well this pit lane strategy plays out.
Crucially, Jeff Thomas does come out in a fair bit of clean air, but it looks like Damien Cairns, he's come right out in traffic with Scott McEwen and Christian Smart, so this is going to hurt Damien Cairns very much. Remember last season, he used to be one of the first guys to always pit, run the long game, run the long strategy, and now tonight it's unfortunately going to affect him. He's stuck behind 2 slow cars on old tyres, so be interested to see now how Scott Gamble and possibly John Latham react to the Jeff Thomas pit stop.
Yeah, I think somebody else will go with them. I reckon Gamble. If there's any one of the 3 that's going to run along, it'll be Gamble. Latham will be in straight away. I don't think he'll even hesitate. But Thomas is in an amazing spot right here. He's in behind Chad Lewis as well, that 727 machine just ahead of him, so he'll get the eyes forward. Indeed, the headlight eyes are looking a long way down the track. A lot of opportunity here tonight for the driver of the 85. Phenomenal qualifying effort from Jeff Thomas. He's had pace, he's had flash in the pan performance, but tonight, doing it here, doing it at a track like this, where we've already talked the level of technical effort and skill it's going to take from these guys, I think that sits a big tick against his name in the book to start off season number 15.
You're certainly right, Scott, and you called it perfectly. John Latham in the lane reacted to Jeff Thomas, and I think Jeff Thomas might jump him here. He's still on the jacks. He's only just dropped down, and I think, yep, Jeff Thomas, he's gone to see you later. He should jump in by a country mile. So massive job there from Jeff Thomas. He's cleared John Latham quite easily. Only 1 lap difference in tyres, which is really not too much in the grand scheme of things. So I think, looking at that, if Scott Gamble has a spotter, I think he needs to box this up. Otherwise, I think he's going to lose way too much ground.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the other option is he goes very, very long. We're now at the halfway mark of this race as well, as down the inside comes Jeff Thomas trying to get that job done on Chad Lewis. He really wants to get out there. He's going to light the rear tyres up on the corner exit. Will just about get the job done, and now that is going to put Chad Lewis in between himself and John Latham, and that's exactly what he wanted. He wanted a car there. He wanted a car to harass him with. And now Jeff Thomas is sitting in the box seat of this lap. Where's our race leader? On the way down to turn number 15 at the moment. Chicane just to come for Scott Gamble. And he's in. You're right, called it straight away. Scott Gamble's in as well. Where does he come out in relation to John Latham? How's the lap pace been from Gamble? Who's going to take back over that race lead? Who's going long? And I think it's going to be Travis Hunt. I think it's the last car that hasn't pit. He's now into the lane as well. Just in behind him will be Robert Crysdale, who will continue on. So Robert Crysdale, ladies and gentlemen, here he comes. I think he's going to become your new race leader here in a few moments. Indeed he is.
I think Jeff Thomas will jump Scott Gamble in the lane here, but I feel like that's John Latham.
He's got him. He's
up.
absolutely got him.
On this lap, so.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether or not... Oh, it's going to be so tight here on the pit lane exit. That's Jeff Thomas, and that is Scott Gamble out ahead of him and on fresh rubber. So P2 and P3 effectively in your overall race standings at this point in time will swap hands. But Scott Gamble sticks another one back in his column, and he will assume the effective race lead once fuel strategy plays itself to conclusion.
Must have been a very good in-lap there for Scott Gamble to keep that advantage. It's definitely closed right after Jeff Thomas, but with 2 lap fresher tyres, I think Scott Gamble does have the upper hand for the remainder of this race. That is the current 1, 2, 3 on corrected order. Gamble, Jeff Thomas, John Latham. We'll have to wait. Guys, Anthony Visma actually pitted that last lap too, so we'll have to see. Taliancic, he still has a pit, so see how far he can get up the order. He started 19th, so long way to go for Tally.
Don't count John Latham out of this yet, because now he is starting to harass that rear bumper of Jeff Thomas. It's for P7 and P8 on the timing tower as it stands, but when everything is said and done, this will be for second and third. And here comes the 24 machine of Latham, qualified it on pole, had early pace, the tyres fell off. Is he trying to save a little bit, or is he trying to push on? These two have got a long way to go on their tyres compared to Scott Gamble, and he is trying to set sail already. Still down the inside. Is he going to show the nose? Yes, he is. Latham to the inside. At turn number 15, he'll pinch a brake, but job done. Back to second place on effective race standings.
Beautiful move there from John Latham to get that position back. Matty Parker, he's just come into the lane. Darren Crosby, he's in the lane as well. Peter Vandergrain, there's a few cars on the lane. It was like Crysdale, Tally, Anchage, the last 2 cars in the lead group at least that have not pitted yet. And Scott Gamble, third on track, first in corrected order.
I don't hate this either from Taliancic, because qualifying was poor from him here tonight. It was a very, very long way down the list, and Crysdale was not much different. You've got to do something different when you're in that battle pack and when you've got cars swarming you. You've got to create yourself some space. And these two have played cards differently. They might have ended up with the same hand of poker, but at the end of the day, where they bet, when they bet, and why they bet, all different decisions from all the drivers.
It's always a strategic game with the race strategy every single week, no matter what race you're doing 150k, 250k, 300k. There's always a strategy game, so these drivers have to probably be working it out all week long, doing testing, working out tyre life, fuel burn. It all comes into play, and the front guys have certainly executed very well. They've got a pretty good advantage over the rest of the field.
Yep, so they've certainly put the numbers in, run it hard. Coming up to the conclusion here of lap number 19, so not much further that Robert Crysdale can go. And he's only got an 11.5 second gap back to effective race leader in Scott Gamble, who sits P3 on track at the moment. Italianci's just starting to close in on a little bit on Crysdale as well, so there might be a battle here. I think both of those guys will prefer to pit before they actually have to fight one another.
Yeah, it looks like about a 32, 33 second pit transit time for these drivers, but these guys going a little bit... Sorry, Scott, you picked up something?
Yeah, John Latham's got a slowdown penalty that he's trying to clear at the moment. So I've got a furled black flag next to his screen, his name in sim, and that says slowdown penalty. So he'll be looking to clear that one as soon as possible. I don't know where that one's come from. It's finally just resolved itself now. So that might have been something to do with the final chicane, maybe.
Quite possibly. It took him a while to serve. I'm just trying to have a look. Yeah, he jumped the final chicane massively. So good pickup, Scott. Good guess. Yeah, definitely picked up turn number 17.
Yeah, I've done a few laps around here. Ironically, Toyota 86 was about the most fun I've had around here. Not an open wheel car. Managed to drive the new BMW LMDH around here last night as well, and the V8 Supercar was doing a few different things. Hated every single moment of it. Loved it in the Toyota 86, but hate it in these sorts of things.
Yeah, certainly probably the not most ideal circuit for these guys, being very tight. Not much room to have these big, heavy cars, but these drivers are putting on a good show. Other than a little scraps earlier on in the race, it's actually been pretty good racing here tonight.
Yeah, let's get back up front, keep an eye on our lap times at this point in time. Pretty much bang on each other at this point in time with Robert Crysdale of 40.097 is his last 5 laps of average, so he just ran a 40.087, so nearly bang on that one. And I can tell you that Talianchi just ran a 39.996. Race leader Scott Gamble 38.898. So that was his fastest lap as well, which is odd to see him push the tyres that long in terms of maintaining the life in them.
You're certainly right there, Scott, and these guys are going very long, and I don't think they'll last too much longer with the fuel. They should only be able to get probably one more lap out of their fuel burn. So interesting to see when these guys come in. And massive mistake there for the 26 machine. It's Brenton O'Brien. 26 machine straight through the dirt there. Turn 1, 2.
I can tell you down the inside at the Adelaide hairpin at this point in time, and it's been tagged. Michael Schroeder's facing in the wrong direction. He's just been turned around. And there was contact there. I don't think it was Dan Hall. I think it might have been Brenton Nitschke that made contact there, because he tried to turn back down the apex, and well, Nitschke was already there. He's already got the car down that path, but it was all on Dan Hall. So there'll be definitely some action to get that Logitech G replay fired up over, because a few cars off track just in the last few moments.
26, Brenton O'Brien, Logitech G, ERT machine. Massive moment. Just completely missed turn 1. Bit of rallycross action through the sand. Kept it going and got it back going. This is the incident with Schroeder and Dan Hall and Brenton Nitschke as well. I wanted to note before we get to this incident, Taliancic has stayed out another lap. Crusdale in the lane is coming out now. We will pick up Schroeder. Big Dan Hall, bit of a lock up there, and unfortunately turning back down from Schroeder, and Brendan Nitschke's right there. I don't think there's probably too much in that, Scott, considering Schroeder was turning down the racetrack and Nitschke was sort of already there. I think that's probably just a racing deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can't really pin it on Dan Hall because they didn't make contact is the problem. If Dan Hall had actually rubbed Schroeder, well, I mean, you have a case there then. That's a case. Way! Brenton, the track is the grey stuff, mate, inside the white line. So that white line you see around the outside there, I believe, is a long lap penalty for MotoGP. for those that are following along at home. Second to Perez also has one of those, and I think we're also going to be getting that when we get Portimao later on in the year as well. The MotoGP long lap penalties have all been scanned in. As you can tell, MotoGP fan. So that's what they do, Brady. They tell them that in MotoGP, if they've had a minor incident, that you have to do a long lap, and you have to go out and drive through all the dusty, offline long lap penalty.
Very interesting. I haven't watched MotoGP too much recently. I follow the results and whatnot. Obviously with Aussie Jack Miller doing it and Marquez and all the superstars of the sport, but I haven't watched it that closely. So it is pretty interesting. I was wondering what it was at tracks like this and Jerez, and I figured it was something like that, but you just confirmed it for me.
Yeah. So Michael Taliancic, we said he could do, 21, 22 laps at the most in terms of his fuel? Yep, Taliancic is back out here, proving us wrong last season by saying that one-handed drivers can't win a championship. Yeah, he did that. This season, yeah, he can do 23 laps on a tank of fuel. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking to try and bring down the fuel bill, maybe you might want to employ Mike Taliancic as your personal driver.
That would be a pretty good bet, I think. He's usually been very good on the fuel burns and saving bits of fuel, Taliancic, and probably helped him win a few races, get some good results. Last season on road to becoming champion of season number 14, but pretty disappointing qualifying by his standards, P number 19, but we did see him come through the field quite a few times last season, and by my predictions, he'll come out, I think, about probably 13th to 15th range at the moment, which is not a massive gain for Taliancic, but he will have fresher tyres at the end, so I think he'd probably get up to P12, but with the gaps how they are at the moment, it's going to be hard slogging for Taliancic in the final, we'll say 12, 13 laps of this race as he comes
There
in.
he goes. About 23 laps is as long as she can take. Benefit here, though, he will have a little bit of a cheaper pit stop, won't have to fill that thing all the way up, and won't have to add all that much fuel. Scott Gamble will take back over the race lead, and it's important to note, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, Robert Crisdale in 12th, one of the other long runners as well. He's coming out, he's at the head of this, the battle pack from 12th to 17th. So that fresher rubber has allowed him to get through those guys and continue on up the road. And then 13th to 17th is Dan Hall, Brenton Nietzsche, Darren Crosby, Stephen Banks, and Matt Skulls in one big old battle pack. From there back, we've got 19th to 25th in another battle pack, which is Mark Duggan, Stephen Kennedy, Halil Cesar, who's up a fair way. So great driving from Halil Cesar, seems to have improved from the previous round. Around the outside of the 462 machine. So that will put him in 14th. For Michael Taliancic, and now he's trying to hang on to that one and hang on to it so that he doesn't slip back to 15th. That's created a little bit of space now for Dan Hall, and they will try and funnel their way down here into the Adelaide hairpin. How much space has Taliancic got? How much pace has Taliancic got? Can he get his way forward from here?
I will take this as a win, Scott, because I said 13th to 15th, and he's in P13. So, despite what I said about John Latham earlier on, which at the moment I'm looking a little bit wrong, but I'll take that 1 for 1, 1 for 2, sorry, so far tonight, so I'll take that as a win.
Mate, I was about to say, look, I called the pit stops, I called Jeff Thomas, and then immediately John Latham, and then you called Scott Gamble, then you've called this one. Mate, we're on fire! Look, up here on the commentary box, we are running red hot at the start of this season in terms of race predictions. We might have to start trying to predict the weather next. That might be the next thing on the list.
Well, we might even get rain soon, so who knows what. Might have to try and predict that in or get some envisions of when that might happen. But look at this battle pack on screen here. David Kirby, very impressed with him. He's sort of gone under the radar, started 9th. He's currently 4th. I haven't really noticed him all night long. No offense to David Kirby. I've driven a few races with him, but man, very impressive ever. He's got Damon Cairns on his rear bumper at the moment. Chris Miller also in P6. Visma's dropped down a little bit. He was running 4th earlier. He's now down to 7. But interesting little battle pack here from P4 right through to Jason Spriggs in P9. They're really covered by less than 3 seconds. So this could be interesting by race end.
Yeah, and there's a few of these battle packs up and down. Whoa, hang on. There's a post-race penalty just handed out to a points penalty for Brenton Mitchke for contacts that would be Dan Hall, I believe. No, it was Schroeder. Yeah, it was Schroeder. Yeah, it was definitely, it was Michael Schroeder. That's the car that we saw turning around, so Schroeder called that one in. There was a points penalty that's been assigned to Brendan Nietzsche as a result of that one. I think that's harsh. I'd agree with you, Brady. I don't know how much you can really penalise there, because Nietzsche, it comes back to one of those moments where you say, I think that's a penalty that's applied on the letter of the law, not the spirit of the race.
Yeah, I do agree, Scott. I'm glad it wasn't a drive-through penalty. It definitely wasn't that harsh. A small points penalty, like 5-10 points, depending how the point structure works. Obviously, it's not the end of the world. Cost you maybe a few positions in hindsight. Not too bad, but yeah, bit of a tough call there for race control. I never envy what they do, because they do a fantastic job and they have to make the hard calls. So, yeah, that's just one of the calls that will go right for you this season, and you'll go wrong for you, and Nish will probably get one go his way sometime in the season. It usually balances out over such a long series like this one being 10 grand.
I want to get back to this next battle pack as well. The Schroeder's fallen back into now after turning himself back around. So 19th to 25th at this point in time. Stuart Hall's putting up the rear of this battle pack. You've got another 6 cars that are covered by absolute nothing. They are toe-to-toe, and that is what it looks like at the front end of this battle pack. 2x2 through turns 2 and 3, all the way out to the outside on the run down to the golf kick as they come down at the first major straight here at Circuit de Neves Magny-Cours. The run to the Adelaide hairpin. Halil Cesar on the outside. The Coolabah into the... Oh my word, what a send! And what a save! And he nearly came away with a spot. He had a crack there. Did Stewie Hall? It was Matty Parker, sorry, my apologies. Matty Parker had an absolute send of the century. And unfortunately, it didn't come off. I thought he pulled it up there for half a moment, but everyone did amazingly to dodge that one there, Brady.
There's some fantastic battle packs happening right throughout this field. It was a common thing last season, season number 14. Wherever you look, there was always battle packs. Even if it wasn't for the race lead, for the podiums, top 5s, top 10s, there's just action everywhere. We will check it out on the Logitech G replay as we get the end of it there from Matty Parker. It was a big send. We'll try and rewind it back. If we get another big lock-up in the background as well. Look at this. This is absolutely incredible. 2-3 wide. Oh, Matty Parker.
Oh, he found the space.
That is huge. At least he didn't take anyone out while doing that. That's probably the one positive to take from that.
Oh, that takes driver skill, A, to try and have a crack down there, then with B, to not bowl everyone. They set themselves up like Skittles a little bit there. I was expecting the whole lot to go over. Speaking about things that are crazy to try and set yourself up and do, going too wide through the final chicane. The 727 car was there, and in amongst that, the lights will flash from Matty Parker. He was not happy with that one. Scott McHugh will get down the inside and seal that pass as well. That is crazy going too wide through that final chicane.
Certainly is, and time is running out. 9 laps to go for these drivers, and they're certainly battling really hard. Chad Lewis, after coming back from that penalty, he's currently P26, and Matt Vanderkraan, remember, he was running up front early on in this race, running P2. That contact with Scott Gamble probably feels a little bit hard done by with no penalty to Gamble. He's on the recovery drive. Remember, he was down in P probably 36, 37, up to 27th, which is decent enough for recovery, but man, certainly what could have been for the 180 of Matt Vanderkraan.
Well, I can tell you at the moment, Michael Taliench is absolutely turning some red-hot times. 38.820 was his last time by, and he is very, very quickly closing in on Robert Quinsdale. And these next few cars aren't all that far up the road, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is for 4th to 9th. There is a bunch of cars involved in this one, and at this rate, there's every chance Taliench, if he can get by Quinsdale quickly, and these guys keep fighting, he's got a chance.
He really does. He's definitely the most fresh tyres out of anyone in this field. His last lap was a 38.9, which is certainly way quicker than anyone else in comparison. The fastest guy up the front was John Latham, 39.2. The leader, Scott Gamble, 39.6. So, and look at that. Look at the difference there between Taliench and Quinsdale. He closed in probably 1.2, 1.3 seconds that last time by. So
well, he's inside a second now. He's only got half a second that he is in here behind Robert Crisdale, and here he comes down to the Adelaide hairpin, looking to try and line him up. Where do you set this move up with this amount of grip? Because you've got to be aggressive. You've got to try and get past him as quickly as possible if you're going to have any hope of catching Travis Hunt as the next car on the road.
They might try maybe a turn number 14, where Gamble earlier tried to put that move on Matt Vanderkraan, and might be his opportunity to change. Otherwise, he might try at 15 at the end of the lap. I think he's got to try and get it done soon. Try get to the back of Travis Hunt, which is probably 5 or 6 seconds up the road. Unfortunately for him, it's going to be a lot of work to try and get to Travis Hunt in P number 10.
Yeah, you can see he's nearly stalled out a little bit as soon as he's got that dirty air as well. Robert Crisdale still looking for that drive now. This Talian just going to do all he possibly can to try and get a little bit further down the road. And just looking at our race leaders at this point in time as well. Scott Gamble's actually started to fade a little bit back in terms of lap times. I think Latham actually just took 0.3 of a second out of him on that last lap. So that gap is starting to close just a little bit in terms of this run. And battle packs continue, ladies and gentlemen, from 19th to 24th, 25th, covered by next to nothing. 13th to 18th, still covered by next to nothing. So if you're a fan of motor racing, you have come to the right place to see it in the Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans.
Once again, the V8 Veterans are turning it on. I don't think we had a dull race all last season. There was always something happening in the field that we're able to bring to you here live on SimSpeed, and there's always something going on. It's always action-packed. It's always exciting. There's always drama. That's why we love bringing it to you on a Thursday night.
Yeah. Motor racing tends to create that sort of action-packed interest. I think it's probably time to check in with our 4th to 9th battle pack yet again, which has got Dave Kirby at the head of that queue. We'll have a look a little bit further back from him. He'll have Damien Cairns, Chris Miller, Anthony Visma, Spriggs, and Craig Friend has now dropped to the tail end of that pack. So Spriggs has made a spot up there in the last half a lap or so. Or are they just starting to spread themselves out just a little bit, as has happened with our 13th to 18th battle pack as well. I can tell you, the 19th to 25th battle pack is about to get joined by 4 more cars. We are about to have, I think it's 10 or 11 cars battling for 19th position on the track as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be Stephen Kennedy's rear vision mirror at the moment, because it is absolutely full. There's stuff happening in the background there. Christian Spart and Peter Vanderkraan, they're going at it for P number 21. There's so much going on. There's a little battle pack, and Chad Lewis and the guys behind him, Scott McHugh, Matty Parker, they're just off the back of the rear of this grid, and Stephen Kennedy looks like he's made a mistake. He's going in the pits once again, so not sure if he
did he have a
really
choice, or has he got a penalty? Interesting. When did he pit? He might have pit actually. He might have pit very, very early on. There was a few drivers. Greg Sharp's another one of those drivers who put on lap 6, so there's no way that Greg Sharp will make it to the end of the race. He might if he's absolutely and utterly saving every last drop of fuel. The guys are definitely going to make it home. The first guys to put on lap 12, I think, had potential.
I'm trying to see. I don't see a slow lap from Stephen Kennedy other than the first lap. So maybe he pitted lap 1 for damage that we didn't pick up on, and he's gone from lap 1 to now, which I think is unlikely. So a bit of an interesting situation there for the 55 of Stephen Kennedy.
Yeah, that's an odd one. Crisdale's now picked himself up a slowdown penalty. That might finally release Taliancic, and indeed it has. So that will allow him to start run forwards. Yeah, no, I've got him on lap 11. Oh no, that was practice. Sorry, my apologies. Wrong one. Oh, word, you're right. He hasn't. No, he started from the pit lane. That's what it is. On lap number 1. So he filled the car up. You know what? There was a couple cars. I've just gone back and watched the race start. There were a couple cars that went from their grid spots because they were behind the chicane. They went straight into the pit lane and filled their fuel tanks. And he was one of them. And the other one was Brenton O'Brien.
That is very interesting strategy. Unfortunately, running a little bit wide there has cost him a number of positions. Also, Brenton O'Brien, he's had his fair share of troubles tonight as well. So it would have been interesting to see if those guys did have a clean race, how that interesting strategy would pay out. As I've just picked up Stephen Gretsch, he's got a big slow down penalty. Oh no, sorry, he's a lap down, so he's just letting the field by. So nothing really to talk about there. But Taliancic taking some ground out of Travis Hunt, but I don't see him pulling in 5.5 seconds, especially when he makes little mistakes like that with only 5 laps to go.
Yeah, so that was quite wide down there at turn number 9. There's a car off the track. It was 17th and then last across the line. So it'll be Mark Duggan. And he is a mile off the track, too. He's in a real bad spot.
We'll have to try and get a Logitech G replay of that. Looks like it's coming around turn number 8, turn number 9 region by the looks of it. It's at a
7-8.
big off.
Oh, I wonder whether or not he's had contact, because that's an odd place to be off.
It is unless he got the curb wrong, one of the curbs wrong potentially, but we'll try and pick up a replay when we can of the 864. Unfortunately, he's been in the wars a little bit tonight too, and on cue, Logitech G replay try and suss out what's going on with the 864 of
Downshift.
Yeah, oh yeah, I sort of got it right. He got the curb, and that's what unsettled the car.
Well, no, he's unsettled before that. The rear end of the car came around just before that. But what I was talking about before, that battle pack from 19th to 29th, they've all formed up again. My word, that's a slide. He just barely kisses the wall. Just gets to the contact. Just, hello, how you doing, Tyres? How you been? How's your night? Yeah, 18th to 28th we've actually got in a battle pack at this point in time, all covered by only a couple of seconds. So that is Christian Smart's got the head of that one, and he looks to be trying to run away all the way down to Matty Parker's the back end of that one. That's where Mark Duggan is just rejoined.
Yeah, massive battle pack there. Look at that, 19th to 28th, nothing in it. Interesting note, as we come to 3 laps to go, John Latham, that last time by, took half a second out of Scott Gamble, but he just jumped the last curb once again. I think he will have another slowdown penalty for John Latham. So as he was catching and putting pressure on Scott Gamble, he's made another mistake at turn number 17 curb, and unfortunately he's going to lose a fair bit of time. And I thought he might have just been able to get onto the back enough to hold some pressure on the back of Gamble, but another little costly mistake there for the 24, and they'll give a lot of breathing room once again to the 543 of Gamble.
Hang on, Dave Kirby and Damien Cairns are only 0.3 of a second away from each other as they start to run their way down to the Adelaide hairpins as well. So there's an opportunity lurking in the water here for Damien Cairns. Jeff Thomas, 3 seconds up the road from these guys. He is dropping about a second a lap back to Dave Kirby, which means third place isn't done yet at this point in time. It's going to take probably a big mistake from Jeff Thomas, but the door is ajar, ladies and gentlemen. There'll be ajar at the back end of the final lap, and that'll be it. Something's just happened to Greg Sharp as well. And it was the second last corner, so I think it was either the chicane or turn number 15.
Trying to pick it up on, we're trying to pick up a replay of the post-race. Maybe Matty Parker involved. My iRacing's not playing the ball game, so can't pick up that incident with Greg Sharp as we do go back on live pitches with David Kirby, Damien Cairns, P4. These guys have not left each other alone the last final laps. The leader, Scotty Gamble, he comes by. He makes it 2 laps to go. Stretch that lead out with that slowdown penalty from John Latham. So looks like Scotty Gamble has this in the bag at the moment, but this is touring car racing. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of a mistake, though, from Scott Gamble to Science Hill and deliver that one over in John Latham's favours. But how's the drive from Jeff Thomas to put it in P3? That's a phenomenal drive. Kirby is starting to close on him yet again. He's just taken another second out of him on the last lap as well. So he's going to get there on the very last lap of the race. He's going to be nothing in it. So it wasn't a second. It was half a second on that last lap. Only half a second on that last lap. Dave Kirby out of the gas early.
Maybe a little bit of an underfill, maybe for the undercut on Dave Kirby. He's struggling just a little bit on fuel that big lift up, so this will leave him vulnerable to Cairns and Chris Miller as well. And Visma and Spriggs aren't really too far away either, and great friends with others too.
I was just half expecting Anthony Visma to try and fire that. Sorry, David Cairns to fire that down the inside there. It was close enough on the run through to the turn 9 hairpin, and just took a little bit of a breath and backed it down a little bit. He might have a crack at him on the last lap if Kirby's going to save a lot more fuel. But if I knew that Dave Kirby at this point in time was fuel saving, I would be harassing that rear bumper, trying to force him to burn more fuel. Would you be the same, Brady?
I certainly would be if I noticed that he was lifting off as much as he did. Certainly you've got to try and put as much pressure on as you can, but you don't want to try and make a mistake yourself. As Scotty Gamble takes the white flag, he's going around turn number 2 on his final lap, but we will stay on. Damien Cairns, battle for P4, Damien Cairns, Kirby, Miller, we're all in this battle. So Anthony Visma, he's coming to pits. So Anthony Visma's coming to pits on the last lap. Has he got a penalty? No, he doesn't. So interesting for Anthony Visma. He's got on the jump very quickly. Man, that's a heartbreaker. He'll probably come out P number 11, 12 by the look. So not probably 4 or 5 spots. He goes wide on the pit exit, which doesn't help him. But shame there for Anthony Visma. Easy top 10 locked in, and just underfield the car just a tiny bit, and that's going to cost you a heap of positions.
You know what? That's actually the hand of Michael Taliancic, 10th place as well. So he's managed to squeak his way just barely inside the top 10. That battle for 4th is not going away. It's not resolved itself at this point in time. Kansas is all over that rear bumper now of Dave Kirby, but there's only a couple corners left to run, and it looks like he might have just managed to hang on to this one by the skin of his teeth as Dave Kirby. A couple corners left to run. Surely, if he's fuel saving now, he'd be in the pot, he'd be in trouble. But have a look at the surge from Cairns. Cairns is right there. A lot of strength. Scott Gamble will come through the final chicane. He'll grab the victory from John Latham, trying to not get himself a penalty on the last lap in the final chicane. I think Latham might have got a penalty there because he was slowing aggressively unless he's out of fuel. Anthony Visma's picked himself up a penalty on the last lap as well for exceeding the pit lane. And Dave Kirby's going to come across and grab that one just barely from Damien Cairns after all of that fuel saving as well to the tail end of the top 10. And there's going to be Taliancic, who scrapes his way in on the last couple of laps due to the mistake from Visma. Travis Hunt's going to come away with P number 9, Nitschke 11, Hall 12, Scholes 13th on his debut here in the V8 Veterans for Kumho Tyres. Banks in 14th and Crosby in 15th at this point in time as they all cross the start finish. Did somebody just get a post-race penalty? A whole bunch of positions just changed.
Yeah, so Anthony Visma, he got that pit lane speeding penalty, I assume, and then he got to about turn number 6 and got out of the car and escaped. So that's why he's just dropping right down the order at the moment. So he'll probably end up being number 36 or so. So I unfortunately didn't come back through. He just escaped the car for whatever reason, and he's going to finish right down the back.
Yeah, well, a double penalty effectively for him. Running out of fuel and then having to pit. Have a look at the parking lot on the start-finish straight for the guys that are running out of fuel. And that's how close it got at the very end of things. Check this out. Check this out for the number of cars that have literally just barely run out of fuel.
There's really not much in it. All these guys are just crawling. Robert Crisdale, he lost plenty of position on that last lap, but at least he got it home in the end. Bit of a wild night, bit of a wild race for these guys. And actually, I'm just trying to pick up. John Latham has dropped down the order somewhere. He's dropped down to 13th.
He got a penalty. He's got a penalty. So he's gone from 2nd place to 13th due to you get a slowdown penalty, ladies and gentlemen, and you have to clear it. And see that first line all the way back up the back end and the flag marshal on the right-hand side of that shot? That's where the start-finish line is. So he would have to clear it after coming out of the last chicane in that small amount of time. So effectively, he'd have to come to a full stop to be able to clear that penalty. And if he picked up any pace, momentum would have carried him over the line.
It's definitely another small critical error there for Latham. He's done it multiple times tonight and on the final lap as well. With easy P2 in the bag.
Gamble took more of the chicane, I thought, than Latham did, just on the surface of looking at it. But this will tell the story. Yeah, too much on the left. It's the left-hand side. The right-hand side's okay, but it's a sausage curb. He hasn't been able to turn back. He's turned too far to the right-hand side. My word.
Really not mentioning it at all there, Scott. If he... that's actually a lot worse on that camera angle. And really, you pretty much have the start-finish line pretty well, right there. So there's really no time to slow down and clear that unless you already slowed right down. So John Latham deserved a P2, but, I mean, he made that mistake
already crossed the line
3 or 4 times in that race. So, I mean, yeah,
So
not
see
really
there,
sure.
he's recognised he's got the penalty, and he's already passed the flag marshal. And that is it. That's all she wrote from John Latham. My word. Dave Kirby, ladies and gentlemen, Dave Kirby will be promoted to P number 3. After hanging on to that, we saw the battle for 4th place, and we saw what we thought was going to be one of the ding-dong battles for the spots off of the podium becomes your final step on the podium.
Fantastic effort for Kirby. Yeah, I mentioned before, sort of flew under the radar all race, and Scotty Gamble, he picked up the win 15.8 seconds in the end, back to Jeff Thomas. Kirby in Fishy Motorsport Machine ran it at the podium. Damien Cairns, Chris Miller, they were 4th and 5th. Jason Spriggs, P number 6, Craig Friend in 7th. Travis Hunt, a very good effort there for the number 32 machine in 8th. Tally Anchorage promoted up to 9th, so a decent recovery there from Tally from starting P number 19, and Brendan Nitschke will finish P number 10.
Yeah, and what a great start for all those guys. Dan Hall will pick up P number 11. Matt Scholes on debut will lose 1 spot from his starting position from 11th back to 12th. John Latham, after the post-race penalty, finishes 49 seconds. A 40-second post-race penalty, I believe, was applied, and finishes in 13th. Stephen Banks, 14th. Darren Crosby, 15th. 16th, Christian Smart. Stuart Hall, Hathel Cesar in 18th. Peter Vander Crane, 19th. Chad Lewis rounds out your top 20. Scott McCune just barely finishes on outside the top 20 in 21st. Schroeder, Duggan, Matty Parker, Greg Sharp, Matt Vander Crane, Robert Crisdale. Robert Crisdale got a post-race penalty, I think, there as well, because he was running 12th. 11th or 12th at the time. It was just in behind Tally Anchich, so he must have picked himself up a post-race penalty as well. Chat Vigor. Oh, Crisdale actually ran out of fuel, we're just hearing. Chad Vigor, Troy Sipple, Stephen Kennedy, Brent O'Brien, Paul Burns, Michael Quain, Scott Van Loon, Rick Vigor, and Anthony Bisma, the first-year cars, 1 lap down. Stephen Gretsch, Michael Stewart, all at 1 lap down. Rod Hollis and Dean Flavel, your non-finishers here tonight. 40 cars to start off the season, Brady, and I think we're going to jump to what is probably going to be an ecstatic Dave Kirby, I think, to start off our podium.
Yeah, Dave Kirby, a fantastic result for yourself, Dave. P number 3 in the season opener here at Magny-Cours. Started in position number 9. You showed a lot of speed last season in season number 14, but wasn't quite able to put a full race together to get a result like this. So you must be feeling ecstatic and over the moon after that result.
Yeah, g'day, Brady. How are we, boys? Yeah, stoked. Actually crossed the line in P4, but to see the message that it was promoted to P3 due to an unlucky penalty from John. So, but I was wrapped, man. Like, top 5 is definitely what I'm aiming for this year, this season. So to start the season off with a podium, haven't had one for a couple of years now, or a couple of seasons. I'm stoked. It's the best way to kick it off.
That battle there late in the race with Damien Cairns riding your back bumper and Chris Miller as well. You're certainly feeling the heat on the rear bumper of that Fishy Motorsports Commodore.
Yeah, look, I was on the save like the whole since the pit stop, so it was all about just making sure I could stay in front coming out at, on the way down to Adelaide, down through the into the hairpin. If I can maintain a bit of a gap through turn 3, I think it is, and get a good exit there. I knew I had him covered for the rest of the lap. So, but yeah, no, look, that was awesome. Had a really good battle with Chris Miller early on in the first stint. Came in a lap or two early on the stop and was able to undercut him there. So, and then yeah, from there on in, it was just a case of managing the fuel, and I think I crossed with like 0.3 of a litre.
Yeah, we've certainly seen a few guys struggle to make it on the end and run out before the finish line. Before we move on to what next week brings, what did you think of the Circuit Magny-Cours track here tonight? Was it difficult to overtake, which is what we predicted pre-race, that it would be a difficult track to make moves at? Did that how it turn out?
I think yes and no. It was always going to be a case of, if I wasn't fuel saving, I reckon I would have been able to make some moves, but it was a case of, and I was in there for the long game tonight. I was able to bring it home with a 0x as well, so a few bonus points. Banked them nice and early in the season, but so it was all about keeping it clean, managing the fuel, and where everything shuffled out in the end. Is where I ended up, and to grab a podium. Yeah, I'm stoked, and congratulations to Jeff and Scotty Gamble.
We'll quickly touch on next week, Circuit Zandvoort, another Formula 1 track, even though it is the older scanned version of the circuit. What do you think next week will bring there?
Again, I haven't raced there for probably a few seasons now, and I think I've probably only done maybe 1 or 2 races there, so obviously have to refamiliarise myself with it. Magny-Cours was good, enjoyed it. Fast, it's flowing. Zandvoort's got those tricky little hairpins and bank corners and long straight. It's got a bit of everything. So again, look, my approach next week will be about keeping it clean, qualifying well. And to qualify in the 10 tonight, where last season I think I was averaging probably around the 15-20 mark. So it's my focus this season is solely and wholly on vets, and and I think we've started off on a great foot, and I'm looking forward to the battles that we're going to have, whoever it may be, next week at Zandvoort.
I certainly agree that you started the season on the right foot, David. First off, congratulations, and secondly, before we let you go, any sponsor shout-outs and anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, Kumho Tyres for sponsoring the series as each and every year. West End Motor Group, DC Shades, Adrenaline Images, Infinity Designs, Precision Sim Training, Battery Warehouse, Airlie Beach, and Relax Marine and Game Fishing. And big shout out to you guys and Race Control and all the other drivers as well. It was a really great night to kick off the season.
Congratulations, Dave, and hopefully it's not the last time we talk to you this season.
I hope not, Brady. Thank you very much, mate.
That's David Kirby there, P number 3, and I think Scott's wandered down the paddock and he's picked up Jeff Thomas and Scott Gable in for a chat, I think.
Yeah, I think we'll jump straight on to Mr. Jeff Thomas, and I tell you what, Jeff, look, you were sitting there, you were happy, it was going to be a podium, it was going to be P3, and then you come across the line and all the results get adjusted after the penalty gets handed out. It's P2, mate. It's obviously over the moon with P3, but we a little upset to see the penalty probably to John Latham, because, I mean, both of you guys drove an amazing race, particularly through that midpoint when we got to see his battle.
Yeah, no, really upset for John, because he had driven well all race, had some good battles there, which I watched for a bit with Scott. So, no, he definitely deserved that. And I was happy with P3, to be honest. Great start to the season. Last year I had a really terrible start, so I was just looking forward to a good, clean race tonight.
In terms of things, mate, the complexity here at Circuit Magny-Cours, it takes a deft foot, it takes a balanced braking effort. You've sometimes got to push the apron. This works you hard, this place around here, and when you look at the season ongoing, it's basically a technical masterclass in how to drive these cars to the absolute most precise bits and pieces of the circuit you possibly can.
Yeah, definitely tough track, and like most of us probably drove it this week for the first time, and normally I would start practice probably a little bit earlier, but this week I was even a bit late for that. So, but maybe that was a nice even playing field for us. But I quite like the look of the whole track list bar. At the moment, I think they've got the Scottish track. I can't think of the name at the moment, which is short. So
Yep,
we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah, that's. I think a few of us are going to be a little bit intrigued to see V8 supercars bouncing around Knock Hill, mate. In terms of the season now, obviously get off on a strong suit. What's the target coming in? Was it going to be a top 5 sort of podium place? You know, maybe that number's shifted a little bit now after round number 1.
Oh, look, always realistically looking for top 10s, and then you'll take anything from there. I mean, most of my problem is if I don't qualify well, I do have trouble getting through. So we just got to keep qualifying well, and then normally that plays to our sort of strengths.
In terms of things, mate, the 85 car, I've always loved the headlights on that thing. How did you and the boys come up with the designs for the JWN cars?
So Wade Reynolds is our painter in the team, and he used to run V8 Vets, but he can't work Thursday nights these days. So, but yeah, big thank to him. He does all of our paintwork for all of our races, Vets, and all the other series that guys run in, and the endurance stuff. So, yeah, it's got nothing to do with me, but he does a very good job, and a big shout out to him for it.
And finally, mate, any other shout outs to pass out on the way?
You guys do an awesome job with this stream. I think everyone's really enjoying it. Admin team, they've been under the pump lately, and they did a good job pulling season 15 together. Looked pretty seamless from where I was sitting anyway. So, but I know they had a bit going on, and thanks to the JWM team, and yeah, congrats to Dave and Scott on the podium, and unlucky to John.
Congratulations, mate, and hopefully this won't be the only time we talk to you all season. Get on out there and enjoy the celebrations.
Yeah, cheers, that'd be nice.
And finally, we're going to round tonight's racing out by talking to our winner, Scott Gamble. I tell you what, Scott, that one was not all your own way. You had to qualify well. You managed to get it on the front row. The start went horridly. And then you had a little bit of contact as well with Matt Vanderkreen in part of that one, mate. It's a little bit of an up and down night right the way through, but end result's the one you wanted.
Yeah, how you going, Scott? Absolutely, it was. I didn't have my own way, and we didn't get a great start. We spun it up in the second stage of the releasing the clutch, and Matty got in front of us, and yeah, we just thought, well, we're going to go for overtakes. That's what we're here for. We're going to try and push on, and unfortunately, there was a bit of, well, race control called it netcode, or contact down at turn 13, I think it was, and I was like, geez, that was a hard hit, and yeah, so that explained why it was, and really unfortunate for Matty because he had stellar pace, and I felt for him.
Mate, tricky circuit here tonight. Tyre wear was obviously quite a big part of that. In the first stint, it seemed that you had the number of the rest of the boys that were around you, but in that second stint, John Latham, he was coming back at you late on in the piece there. Were you a little bit worried?
Yeah, he was. He was up and down, and we had to really manage our fuel load in the second stint. We crossed the line with half a litre, and I was just a little bit worried throughout. Do I leave enough in the tank to be able to push if he gets to us? And yeah, but he was coming hard, and I was actually struggling with tyres in the second stint a little bit, especially on the front end. Whereas the first stint they felt great. So yeah, it was that was interesting. But yeah, John, he was fast. He got pole, and he was pushing on, and it was a real shame that something happened when he crossed the line. Maybe a slow down or something like that, because he did deserve P2. He drove an awesome race.
We talked, I think, at this stage last season about, a great start of the season, got to get your eyes forward. And then through the middle of the season, things fell off a little bit. Does that mean that there's a little bit of a different approach to the racing this time? I know, look, I'll front up, I think, what I think is, to me, the elephant in the room a little bit. Normally, you really take that racing door to door. There's generally contact made. It's never... I wouldn't say, when I say there's contact made, I'll clarify this for everyone that's watching along at home. I don't think it's intentional contact. I think it's just part and parcel of racing contact. But maybe after everything that happens last season, do you pull on back on that a little bit? Do you keep pushing the margins as you are at the moment?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and you're right. We did. We had an awesome start to the start of the season last year. Then we went camping, and from then on, we sort of faded away. And I think, there was a few personal things going on in my own life that I was dealing with and struggling with, and got the better of me there at some stages, and so I had to step away and have a real good think about what did I want to do with my sim racing and how I behave and react around other people. So you're right, yep, absolutely have to push on and find yourself and enjoy the racing so you can be a part of it, and people enjoy racing with you if you do that.
Mate, beautiful answer. And finally, the last question I'll ask you, does that mean there's no camping trip scheduled for season number 15?
Well, we might go Friday instead of...
I would say no, I'm sorry, but not until June. We're not going camping. That's it. I want this one. But anyway, that's just me. I'm a little bit different, mate. Congratulations here, and the other floor is yours to thank those sponsors that make it possible.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Big shout out to the team at Evolution Racing Team, especially in the Vets channel with Brenton, Chad, and Dan. You know, they got me back on the right track with what I was mentioning before, and got me refocused. So big shout out to them, and always supportive and helping out. To Logitech G, thank you very much. We use their gear, we use the Pro Wheel, Pro Pedals, and we also got if you jump onto their online store, you can use ERT in capital letters in Australia only, and for a code, for a voucher of 5 to 10%, donations go to Soldier On. Shout out to Soldier On. We donate everything to them, and that's helping our return service men and women. And to the admin, thanks for getting season 15 underway. Drivers, awesome. It's been some really positive stuff in the Discord channel, and it's great to be a part of again. And to the sponsors that came on board this season again, thank you very much. Without them, it'd be hard to go racing like we do every week. And to you guys at SimSpeed, you put on a great show, and we really appreciate the broadcasting for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Gamble. Congratulations on race number 1, mate. And I have a feeling we'll be talking to you multiple times throughout this season yet again, mate. Congratulations on another race win, and see you next week.
Cheers, guys. See you.
That's a really interesting answer, I actually like, to that interview question there, Brady, because he wasn't afraid to approach it. He said, look, I probably pushed a few margins, was what I took out of that answer, and he wasn't enjoying his sim racing. But the best answer was that instead of going away, instead of hating the admins that were potentially, getting a little bit up in arms, getting defensive, he went, okay, I want to enjoy my racing again. And he found that by talking to the admins, talking to the racing stewards, and going, okay, here's the margin, here's what I did wrong.
I 100% agree with you, Scott. I think nearly every sim race is probably in a very similar boat, very similar situation, and it's good to see Scott Gamble on his game, because he produced it tonight. He's one of the best out there and one of the best in this series, so definitely a deserving winner. And like I said, when he's on form, he's probably very, very hard to beat, so it'll be certainly interesting to see if he can bounce back to replicate his drive next week at Zandvoort.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We'll look forward next week to Circuit Park Zandvoort. We'll be heading our way over to Max Verstappen's home country. The Dutch will go wild. There won't be any orange smoke set off by flares in the sim, but you can imagine it along at home if you're enjoying all the racing. Don't forget to ensure that you flick your eyes this weekend over to all the racing going on down at Albert Park in Melbourne. The V8 supercars have gone head to head, and I believe their racing is actually just about done for the weekend, and following that will be the Formula One. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, keep your eyes on SimSpeed Network for all your broadcasts right throughout the week. And finally, a big shout out to all the sponsors that make it possible, specifically here at the Kumho Tyres V8 Vets. Kumho Tyres, our proud partner sponsor, they make it all possible. They put the big bucks in. They support the league as much as they possibly can. Without Logitech G, there'd be no Logitech G replay. Parramatta Isuzu Ute, they'll get you there. If you want to go trucking, Parramatta Isuzu Ute are the guys to talk to. And finally, rounding us out, maybe you'll source your Logitech G gear from Player One Sim Gear. Big partners in terms of the distribution of sim racing gear in Australia. And finally, Nova Sim Sports as well. If you want to get sim racing, Nova Sim Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the V8 Veterans Kumho Tyres. For Scott Rankin, for Brady Baldwin, for Dan Layman behind the stream, we are SimSpeed, and we'll see you again next time.
The ever-changing weather around the world. Ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.